Stephanie of Stephanies Stitches here. Welcome to my channel where together we sew. If you're brand new here, I'm so happy to have you. Thank you for coming by. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and ring the bell for notifications. And if you've been here a while, thank you so much for coming back. I love seeing your comments down below. So today, I'm super excited to get started on the Patriotic Days block of the month from Pastry Shop Quilts. Sherry over at Pastry Shop Quilts is the owner and operator, and she does an amazing job picking out fabrics and making patterns. A lot of the patterns she has on her website and for this block of the month are her original patterns, and I love that. I love original patterns, and so I'm really excited to put this together. So if you'd like to participate, you got to go over to her shop, purchase the kit and your pattern, and sew along with me. This is not a mystery block of the month, so you can see the quilt ahead of time if you'd like to take a peek. I know some of you like mysteries and some of you don't, so this one's not a mystery for those of you who don't. And Sherry is a great shop to support, so if you have any interest in this, go ahead and go over to her shop. I'll link it down below. So this is month 1, and each month there's going to be 2 blocks, and it's a 9-month sew along. The last month will be, the 9th month will be the finishing, but all the first 8 months will be 2 blocks per month. So let's go ahead and get started on these blocks. So this is the first block of month 1 for the Patriotic Days block of the month, and this one is called the Starburst block. So as you can see, I've got all my components laid out. Now I'm not going to go over the sizes of everything each month because this is Sherry over at Pastry Shop Quilts' own original pattern. So if you'd like to sew along with this, you need to kind of go over to her shop and grab her kit and pattern. But I'm going to sew up each block if you want to sew along with me, or if you need a little bit of help on how to put the blocks together. So I'm going to start with this piece right here, which is the center of this block. So the center, and you can draw lines on these if you like. I have diagonal seam tape on my machine, so I'm not going to draw lines on these ones. I typically don't draw them on smaller squares, just larger squares. We're going to lay one on each opposite corner, so it'll be like this. And we're going to sew a diagonal line corner to corner, right there. Okay, so I'm going to start by doing that. So I did this side, and now I'm going to do the opposite corner. Same thing. Okay, now I'm going to grab my rotary cutter and ruler, and I'm going to trim these 1/4 inch away from the seam that I just sewed. I'm going to give these a press. I'm going to press these out away from the center. And now I'm going to do the same thing again on the opposite two corners that haven't had any fabric added to them yet. So we're essentially creating a square in a square block. I believe it's also called an economy block. So I was trying to think of the name. I think it's most commonly called square and square though. See the little square we've got in the center now? Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to trim these 1/4 inch away and then press them out. Okay, so we've made the center of our Starburst block. So that's step 1. Okay, so the next step in our block is to make a whole bunch of flying geese. And if you don't know what a flying geese is, you'll be an expert by the time we're done. A flying geese, excuse me, is when you take 2 squares, kind of like we just did with that square to square block, but you add it to either side of a rectangle. So we're going to have where it's going to end up looking like this, somewhat, and this. So they're going to be on opposite sides, and I'll show you better in a minute. But we're going to make 4 of flying geese with the flag print, and we're going to make 4 flying geese with the gingham, the navy gingham print. So let's start with a flag print. This fabric, the white is a tone on tone, so be careful which way you put your stars. Okay. Now I'm just showing you one of each of these, but if you're making all 8 at the same time, I would definitely chain piece. And then if you're a brand new quilter, chain piecing just means that you keep feeding your fabrics through the machine without cutting your thread. You just keep sewing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the gingham as well. It saves a small amount of thread, but it saves time. That's the most important thing. Okay, so I'm going to snip them apart, and then we're going to take our rotary cutter and our ruler, and we're going to trim 1/4 inch away from the seam that we just made. Okay. All right, and now we're going to press these, and we're going to press them out away from the white. Okay, so we have two pieces that look like this so far, and we're going to add the same on the other side that we just did. And we're going to sew down this way towards the one that we already added. Again, you may want to draw a line on the back of these if you don't have the seam tape on your machine. Unless they're larger squares, I just use that guide. But if you don't have that, grab your favorite marking tool and draw a line from the top right to the bottom left. And then sew right on that line. And because I don't mark it, I just take a couple stitches and line everything up and then keep sewing. Clip those apart, and then we're going to trim these. Quarter inch away from that seam you just sewed. And then we're going to press. One flying geese. And two flying geese. Now they should come out to about 2.5 by 4.5. So if you need to square up, go ahead and square up. And then we're going to join these flying geese together just like this. The navy print is going to go, well, I shouldn't say at the top or the bottom because it depends on which way you turn it. But if the color is faced towards you, you want the navy print on the bottom and then the flag on the top. So we're going to put that right like that and join those two together. No seams to match up on this part, so nice and easy. So then I'm going to press this down towards the navy. Okay, now you should have 4 sets of these, and we're going to join these two in this step to that center square that we made before. And you want your navy flying geese touching your navy center. This is how we're going to make the star in the center. For this step, you only need to use 2 of the sets of flying geese that we made. So put the other 2 aside for now. we're going to give this a press. I'm going to press these out. Really, you could do it either direction. Because there's the same amount of bulk either way. When I'm deciding which way to press, I always decide based on bulk. I'm a long arm quilter, so I always think about how it's going to react on the long arm if the needle hit that spot. If you like to press open, this might be a good spot to also press open. I'm not a big fan of pressing open, but I could see where you might want to do that here. But I'm just going to press it out. Okay, so that's the center of our Starburst block. I'm going to put this aside just for a second, and I'm going to work on the outside corners. Now we're going to make 4 sets of these, and they're going to be the outside corners of our block. So I'm going to start by laying these right sides together. So put that one down. And because this square is bigger, as you can see, I've drawn a line on it from corner to corner. So I'm going to lay that together, and then we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on either side of that line. And for these, you can also chain piece them if you like. It does help it to go a little bit faster, but one thing I like to do when I'm sewing half square triangles is sew on the one side, and then just lifting my presser foot, turn the whole block around, and then sew the other side. I feel like that goes fairly quickly, so I like that way of doing them. Now I'm going to trim these apart right on that line that I drew, and then we're going to press these blocks towards the red or towards the dark, and then trim them down. And we're going to trim them down to 2.5 inches square. So you should have plenty, oops, you should have plenty of extra to trim these down. I'm going to grab my ruler and trim these down to 2.5 inches. Got lots of room to play with here, so I can make these nice and square. And I always put my 45-degree line from the ruler right on the line that I sewed. I like this method of doing half square triangles, where you make the squares bigger and then trim them down. I've had too many patterns where they don't give you enough wiggle room, and then the squares end up too small, and then I get frustrated. So I really like this way of doing it. Okay, so there's those. And you're gonna make 4 sets of these. So you should have 8 half square triangles all together when you're done making these. Now, I'm gonna lay these out and we're gonna do essentially a 4 patch for the corners. This is how we're gonna make the corners of our star block. So we're gonna put these together like this, and then like this. So we're doing essentially like an hourglass. So put a background square, and then a half square triangle, the red facing towards the center, and then a half square triangle with the red facing towards the center on the bottom left, and then another background square. Now a lot of machines will suck in these corners here, so you can start from the other end. My machine doesn't do that just because I've got a machine that's almost an industrial machine and it's a straight stitch, so it doesn't have a big opening to suck fabric in, but my other machines do, so I would turn it around. But in this case I don't need to, so I'm going to sew it that way, but I recommend if you have a machine that likes to suck fabric to do it that way. I recently went on a retreat and had to use a machine other than this straight stitch machine, and I've forgotten that that machine likes to suck in fabric, so until I remembered that, I was a little bit frustrated with it because I had to change around the way I sewed things, but it all worked out in the end and I got some projects done, so that's what all that matters. Okay, so after you sew these two together, you should have a couple pieces that look like that. Now I'm going to press these towards the red, and then we're going to sew these 2 little rows together to make our corner units. Okay, so now that those are pressed, I'm going to flip the top row onto the bottom row, just like this, and sew these together right along here. Now if you're a pinner, definitely pin that seam right there in the middle. I'm not much of a pinner, so I'm just going to take a few stitches and then nest these up and sew. And then after I always go over that center seam, I realign, make sure it's good at the end. All right, I did that right? Yes, it should come out like an hourglass. Perfect. So I'm going to press this, and you need to make 4 of these units for each of the corners. So that is all the elements of this block. So now it's just putting everything together. Okay, so we are going to add this corner unit to this one that I already made. So I took my extra flying geese units, there should be 2 left of these, and I added a corner unit to it, and so I'm going to do the same thing over here, making sure I've got it going the correct direction. And you're going to want the white squares in the top left and the top right. Okay, so this is what you should have. And I made the other one already. And it looks like I pressed these out and I had forgotten that. So I'm going to go back and press that centerpiece in. So that way when I put this block together it nests really well. So I'm going to press this one out just like I did with the others. Okay, so I've got those 2 units made. Then I'm going to go back and press this the opposite direction. As you remember, I said before, the bulk is the same either way you press it, so it didn't really matter, except that I want it to nest really well with those other rows, and I'd forgotten which way I pressed those, so just changing the direction that I pressed them. Okay, now we can put this block together. So I'm going to add one of these to the top and one of these to the bottom, just like that. There are some seams to nest here, so I'm going to go a little slower. You can pin if you like, that'll help. Hold them in place. That one lined up pretty well. Pretty happy with that. Okay, and then I'm going to add this bottom one, and then we'll press the whole block. Should do it. Yes, perfect. That lined up nicely. Okay, good. All right, so got a few threads coming out to trim that one, or clip that one. Just gonna press these. I'm gonna press these out away from the center because now we've got a lot of seams going towards the center, or a lot of seams. So. the other side. Okay, so I'm almost done here. So again, this was called the Starburst block. This is block 1 in month 1. After I press this, I'm going to take a pause and get set up for block 2 of month 1, which will be the Pinwheel star block. I love this so far. Y'all know me, I love stars, so this quilt is right up my alley. I'm loving it. Yeah. Making a mess over here. Okay, so there's our Starburst block. Really pretty. I love it. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to do the Pinwheel star block, which is block 2 of month 1. And I've got all my components laid out here. First, we're going to start with the pinwheel, which will make the center of this block. So I'm going to grab my red star and my white background, and I'm going to draw a line, which I already did, on the back of my white background square. And then we're going to sew 1/4 inch on either side of that line. And then we're going to cut this apart right on that line that we drew. And then we're going to press both of these out towards the red and trim these down to 2.5 inches square. And you should have 2 sets of these to make 4 half square triangles. So you're going to do what I just did twice. Okay. All right. I'm going to trim these down to 2.5 inches. One. And 2. Okay, so you should have 4 of these. I've already made 1 set and put 2 of them together to start the pinwheel. So, how I like to make sure that I'm doing the pinwheel correctly is I always go to the previous piece and then just turn my next piece 1 turn, and that makes sure that I make the pinwheel the right way. So I've already done the top piece. I'm going to join these together, and then we'll put those 2 little rows together to make the pinwheel unit. So I pressed this one to the right, so I'm going to press this one to the left so they nest nicely get our pinwheel. So just like this. And you can pin right on that center seam if you like. This is a small enough block that I think you can just kind of hold it together and nest the seams and you'll be just fine. Okay, so there we have a nice pinwheel. It matches all up in the center, which I like. I'm going to press this open. Don't do a lot of pressing open, but pinwheels get very bulky in the center, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. There we go. Nice pinwheel. That looks really good. The points lined up really well. I'm happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to set the pinwheel aside for a minute, and I'm going to grab the light blue gingham and a background square, and we're going to lay those right sides together, and you're going to draw a line from corner to corner on the back of this. So we're making some more half square triangles, except this we're not turning into a pinwheel. So again, sew 1/4 inch on either side of the line to make 2 half square triangles. And then we're going to trim on that line. Or cut on that line to cut these two apart. I'm going to press towards the blue fabric and then trim these down to 2.5 inches square. Okay. Alright, I'm going to trim these guys down. And you're going to be making 2 sets of these to make 4 half square triangles. Okay, so that's those. And those are going to be paired up with your white background squares. We'll get to that in just a minute. going to make this that goes with these units, or with these. We're going to make it look something like this. So I'm going to take my white background square and add it to this rectangle. And you can draw a line corner to corner if you like. I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to trim 1/4 inch away, and I'm going to press. This one's going to be easier to press out towards the white. I usually press towards the dark, but this time around I'm going to be a rebel. So you should have 4 of these pieces when you're all done. That looks something like this. And then after that step is done, we're going to add these together to make gotta get these oriented the right way here. My brain doesn't seem to like these angles this morning. Nope, like this. Okay. There we go. Now I've got it the right way. Okay. So we're going to make blocks that look something like this. This fabric's the right way. There we go. So I'm going to add these to these little squares. And these are going to be the outside corner of our blocks. Sometimes I can be angly challenged and it takes me a second, but that's alright. We get there in the end. Okay. So again, I think I'm going to press these towards the white just to lessen some of the bulk. I almost never press towards background fabric, so it's a little different. Breaking the rules. Just kidding, there's no rules. You can do this however you like. It's less bulk that way, so it works. Okay, and now I'm going to add these pieces to these pieces. So I'm just going to flip this down onto itself and sew 1/4 inch seam. Nice thing on these pieces is there's really nothing to match up. You're just sewing a 1/4 inch seam, so that's nice. Okay. Now I'm going to press down towards the blue piece, the bigger blue piece. Now you're going to make 4 of these all together, 1 for each corner of this block. Alright, and then set these guys aside for a minute. And we're going to grab this last bit here, which is these larger background squares and a smaller red square and a smaller blue square. We're going to put the red squares on the left bottom corner and the blue squares on the right bottom corner for all 4 of these units. There are 4 of this unit altogether. And we're going to start with the red from the top left to the bottom right. Or I'm going to start with that. I think I realized that the directions started with the navy. And I had done them all red first, so I'm going to just continue that way. Definitely a tip, read your pattern completely before you start. Luckily, that's not a huge mistake, and as long as I do them all the same, it'll turn out the same, or turn out just fine. It's just different from what the pattern says, so definitely read your pattern, follow your pattern. Or actually, it does say that you use the red star first. I don't know why I thought it said the blue. I just reread it really quick. Okay, so I did it right. Yay. Okay. Alright, so I've got the red side on, and I'm going to do the same thing with the blue. I'm going to add it to the side, and I'm going to go from the upper right-hand corner to the lower left-hand corner. You can draw a line on these if you like. I, again, am using the seam guide tape, so I'm not drawing a line. Once you've done a lot of half square triangles and flying geese and things like that, especially with the smaller pieces, you get really used to eyeballing it. But if you're a beginner quilter and you're sewing along with me, then I would definitely draw a line. And don't feel bad if you have to, because I had to for years before I was able to kind of sort of eyeball it. So, okay, I'm gonna press this guy out. And then we've got a cute square with red and blue. Isn't that a pretty red, white, and blue? I just love this fabric. I love these stars. This is a basic from Moda by April Rosenthal. And I can't remember. It might be called Twinkle or something like that, but they're just so cute with these stars on them. Very nice basic. They come in all kind of colors, but obviously we use the red, white, and blue for this quilt since it's a patriotic quilt. But I just love it. It's so cute. So you're going to make 4 of these units. And now we're going to start putting this all together. So these 2 units are going to join with the pinwheel to start making the center. Look how pretty that is. Red, white, and blue. It looks like the American flag. Just love it. Okay. I'm going to press this out. Perfect. It's looking good. Okay, I'm going to add this side. Careful as you're doing these that you don't stretch your fabrics. Okay, again, I'm going to press this out. Oh, looking good. I can start to see the star taking shape. See how the star uses, the pinwheel helps make the star shape? I'm loving it. Such cute blocks. Okay, so that's the center, so I'm going to put that aside. That guy. And I started to put these together. These are going to become the top and the bottom. So you're going to use your corner pieces that we just made, your center pieces, which are the red, white, and blue, and then you're going to add those other pieces that we made, the outside corners, to these to make your row. Try to save a little time by sewing some ahead of time, because if I did every bit of this on camera, you all would not watch, because it would be a 2-hour video. But I show you each component of each block, so hopefully that helps you guys. Okay, so I'm going to press this in, since I pressed the pinwheel block out. Oh, this is cute. I really like this block. Okay, last one. I'm going to join that together and then press it in. Okay, so there's that one. Now we're going to put all of them, put my ruler aside, I don't need that anymore. We're going to put this all together. So it's going to go just like this to make this cute pinwheel start block. Oh, this is adorable. You could pin this all together if you want, just to save or to make sure all your seams come together. I'm just taking my time, lining it all up. Just a few seams to match up, so not too bad. Oh, that looks really good. I'm going to press this out, and then we'll add the last piece and we'll be done. Do the same thing on the bottom we just did on the top. Okay. Oh, look at that. It came out really good. It seems matched up really well. Super happy with that. All right. So there's our pinwheel star block. So we finished month one's blocks, the Starburst block and the pinwheel star block. Those are all done, and that was a great first month. I love these blocks. They're so cute. And I can't wait to see what Sherry has in store for us for month two. So I hope you come back next month and sew with me. I love having people to sew with. And enjoy. Have a great week, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!